Hello and welcome to Analyzing Finance with Nick. In this video, I'm going to discuss the economic future of Thailand. Uh, is Thailand a country on the rise, or are they stagnant due to their own domestic political turmoil? First, let's start with the positive. What's working in Thailand right now? Thailand has a few things that are going for it. The first one of these is the low cost of living. Thailand is one of the most affordable places to live in the world. I said this in my Malaysia video. Southeast Asia, uh, for a variety of reasons, is a very low cost of living place, especially if you adjust for the level of crime or lack thereof. In Southeast Asia, it's a safe place that is very low in terms of expenses. Therefore, it makes it very attractive for tourists. It makes it particularly attractive for expatriates and retirees from abroad, and it also increases the purchasing power parity of its citizens. I'm always skeptical of PPP data, but when you look at Thailand, its GDP in terms of nominal GDP per capita is only about $8,000 per year. But in terms of effective purchasing power, if it was the same cost of living in the United States as it was in Thailand, that's more like $22,000 per year. So it's nearly triple the boost in living standards that the average Thai citizen gets from living in an economically affordable country. There is some skew to this, as Bangkok, where most of the economic activity is in Thailand and the tourist areas, are considerably more expensive than the rest of the country, where like rural Thailand is probably the most affordable place to live in the world. But at the same time, if there's no economic opportunities, what good does that do? It's food for thought. Geopolitical stability. Thailand was the only country really in Southeast Asia that was not colonized by a greater power during the colonial era. It managed to keep its territorial integrity and its economy humming through the Vietnam War, and it has been able to balance the rise of the U.S. and China as the dominant superpowers, policing the geopolitics of the ASEAN region. Thailand also has a very diversified export profile that ranges from computer parts, automobiles, rice, precious metals, including gold, rubber, and derived products from rubber, and um, advanced machinery. So it has no one sector of their export profile exceeds 30% of their total exports. So it's pretty broad based and diversified. And then, really, another thing about Thailand, it has a broad uh, small business culture with over 80% of employment coming from small business and over 90% of corporate revenues in Thailand coming from small business. Uh, the main linchpin really for Thailand's economy going forward is tourism from China. But depending on what reports you could read, anywhere from 12 to 22% of Thailand's GDP is derived from tourism. And Chinese tourism, due to COVID, has collapsed due to both countries to being locked down longer than the West, with China being particularly late to the party. With China's economy reopening, the whole hope is that the hard money coming in, along with the increase in economic activity through tourism, is going to create an economic boom and a recovery in Thailand, as Thailand's economy has mostly recovered to pre-COVID levels without tourism recovering. So let's move on to the challenges when it comes to Thailand. Thailand has a lot of challenges. Its main challenge is its domestic political instability. Really, for the past 20 years, Thailand has had populist elections that, let me cut that out. For the past 20 plus years, Thailand has had controversial elections with a populist political family known as the Shinawatras. You've had the founder of this political dynasty Thaksin Shinawatra run first and become prime minister. Then his sister Yingluck Shinawatra later became prime minister. And now his daughter is running in the upcoming election in May, and she's the favorite to become prime minister in that election. And they have a very populist worldview called tokenomics, which is a combination of things such as debt moratorium for farmers, subsidized transportation and fuel prices, artificially low interest rates, a unsustainable universal health care program that doctors in the country have criticized because it just can't really make the costs work. Small and medium-sized business development programs. It has some privatization of state-owned enterprises, particularly electric utilities and mega infrastructure projects. And then the last one is creating some sort of cartel system to increase the price of exports, notably such as the rubber and rice industries. These were implemented under Thaksin's premiership in 2001 and 2006 with mixed results, mostly just a more volatile economy, both on the up and the downside. And every time that a Shinawatra has come into power, they've had threats come against them through the legal system. A lot of these leaders have been charged, both Thaksin and Yingluck have been charged on corruption charges. And the Thai military has come in and coups to stop the democracy due to how politically risky the situation has become, for lack of a better term. I'm not an expert in Thai politics or the feuds between the red shirts and the yellow shirts or the domestic tensions and who's on every side and which one is actually better for the economy. But the instability has scared investors and it has made it harder to grow than it would otherwise. Speaking of shakiness, Thailand also has a history of a shaky currency and banking system. Its non-performing loans were high in the 1990s and the 2000s. And they've come down a little bit since. The bank system has improved from the Asian financial crisis days, and the Thai baht is a lot more stable than it was during the Asian financial crisis days in the wake of it. But nevertheless, a lot of investors still don't trust it just due to the history of both the baht and Thai banks have been kind of dubious. The other thing with Thailand is they have a lack of multinational corporate champions. Like the only company to make it in the global Fortune 500 out of Thailand is PTT, Public Company Limited, which is a state-owned oil and gas company. So they don't really have any non-SOE private companies that are based in Thailand that really are on the true world stage. I mean, Red Bull was 50% owned by Thai business interests with an Austrian founder, but I don't really think Red Bull would count as a purely Thai company. The other thing is with Thailand is its underdeveloped peripheral regions. I mentioned this with the whole cost of living thing, and also with the Shinawatra political controversy. He got a lot of his support from the underdeveloped peripheral regions. Is that outside of Bangkok and the tourist areas, Thailand is considerably underdeveloped. The gap in development between the core and the hinterlands leads to the domestic political instability. And I think these two things are kind of a downward self-fulfilling spiral. And then the other thing of Thailand is its shadow economy is 41% of GDP, and there's some reputational concerns attached to that. Other concern that I have really more than others is loose monetary policy. Thailand has an inflation rate historically since 2000, which is about double that of the United States at around 4%. Yet Thailand has been slow to raise its interest rates compared to the West, with interest rates at the Fed at nearly 5%, in Europe at nearly 3%, and emerging markets over 6%. Thailand has an interest rate of only 1.75%. And this is even with their inflation. It's come off like the last few months, but at one point they had 0% or under 0.5%, a little bit under 1, near zero rates, with 8% inflation at the same time. And I think the combination of the lack of hard currency from not as much tourism possibly from coming as expected, and a lot of their exports that are very cyclically sensitive, such as autos and semiconductors, may be having a down year, result in less capital coming into the country versus expectations, and you have more money in circulation because of low interest rates. I think you could see a real spike in inflation. That goes back to the concern I have about the shaky Thai baht. And like we do with every one of these videos, before we end it, we're going to do a country compared to a U.S. state. And for Thailand, we're going to compare it to Virginia. On a service level, these places have very little in common. Thailand is primarily driven by tourism and manufacturing. Virginia's economy is mainly driven by government, particularly being a DC periphery suburb in the north and a military naval presence in the southeast. So they're very different types of economies, but they're similar in size in terms of GDP, so I'm going to use them as the comparison. Population, they're very different. Thailand has almost 70 million people. Virginia has a little less than 9 million people. Thailand's GDP is 581 billion. Virginia is considerably bigger at 654 billion, despite being a little bit over 10% of the population of Thailand. If you look at GDP per capita in Virginia, it's about 75,000 US. In Thailand, it's nearly a tenth of that, 8,200. But if you adjust for how cheap it is to live in Thailand, it goes up considerably to 22,000. Fortune 500 companies. Thailand just has one, the oil company I mentioned. Virginia has 6. They include major aerospace and defense firms and Capital One. Notable tourist sites, Phuket, that's the place where I've been to in Thailand. They have Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Pattaya, Krabi, Phi Phi Islands. There's actually a lot of nice beaches and historical sites in Thailand, so there's a lot of them. Virginia, the most notable one is Colonial Williamsburg, which is kind of like a town that still looks like it's in the pre-revolution days. I've been there too. It's actually quite fun to visit, and it's worth it if you happen to be anywhere near there for any other reason. Monticello is also pretty cool. Thomas Jefferson's estate. University of Virginia, really in itself, is a unique tourist attraction as well. And then there's all the stuff affiliated with Washington, D.C. Most of it is not technically in Virginia state lines. So that's my comparison. Overall, I think Thailand is going to continue to be a relatively successful emerging market, but I don't really see a path of it really advancing out of being a upper middle income country without the politics cleaning up.